trying to find meaning and true love and compassion.
And how to connect in the most authentic way.
Yeah, how to connect in the most authentic way.
Yes.
I don't know about this polyamory, but
it's not even like the word polyamory.
it's still off-putting to me.
It's more about the meaning of like, you can create the kind of relationship that you want for your life and for yourself. It's about creating a community in which there's interconnected compassion and communication and love. And it's really about, for me, the evolution of human relations.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys about Jada, Will, and also Willow. We're going to be talking about polyamorous relationships and whether this affected the August Alsina situation. All right. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are new to the channel, and those of you who obviously, you know, you return to the channel all the time and you know what it is, baby. You got the minerals, you got the minerals. Don't forget to get your top, baby. Listen, click on the little link down below, baby. And if you like these hats as well, use LittleBlackbook91 as a code to get 10% off these hats as well. All right, cool. Let's get into it. So, obviously, with the August Alsina and the Jada and the Will and the Willow situation, I want to bring it all together. We've obviously heard about August Alsina coming out and talking about his situation with Jada, which I'm going to address in another video. But it's really, really interesting because I went back to find out, to see that obviously Willow and Jada and the mother of Jada has spoken about polyamorous relationships. And I think it's really interesting because the description of polyamorous are just
polyamory.
It's still off-putting to me.
It's more about the meaning of like, you can create the kind of relationship that you want for your life and for yourself. It's about creating a community in which there's interconnected compassion and communication and love. And it's really about, for me, the evolution of human relations.
Speaks about the fact that obviously these relationships where there are multiple people within a relationship, and I think I put this in the open relationship video last time. I said, you know what's interesting? That with open relationships, the fear of commitment is there. You see, when you say you have two people that you want to commit to, actually what you're doing is what guys do, especially when they don't want to date one person. I'm taking a little bit of you and taking a little bit of you. And actually, when I watched the video, the man said as well, you know what? It's scary to think that the person wants everything the person's waiting on me for everything to give to them basically. And that's what a relationship is. It's about understanding that, oh, hold on, first of all, actually, none of us actually can give the fullness of what an individual needs. That's why God is involved. This is why God is needed. This is why a family is needed. This is why friends are needed. Because actually, none of us can give the person 100% everything that they need, because we all need friends and we all need family, right? And how that looks is different to everybody. Now, do we need a third person to come into a relationship to be able to understand what that person's saying and what they need?
Say that there are needs that you have that these two can go back and forth with giving you what you need.
Yeah, and also that there's needs outside of these relationships.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So would you say that that's part of why this works? Is it because you have that understanding that not one person can facilitate?
Yeah. And it's also the other side, feeling that pressure, like, I've got to give everything for this person. Like, what pressure is that for one person to take on?
No, you don't. But we've bought into an idea that we need an extra person to fulfill the needs of the individuals. And I would say that, again, it's masked as, I love you, I love making connections and making emotional connections with people. Why do you need to be in a relationship person to make emotional connections?
It's about creating a community in which there's interconnected compassion and communication and love. And it's really about, for me, the evolution of human relations.
No. Deep the logic, because Willow said, listen, basically the reason why she wants to enter it is because it's all about love and it's all about connecting with people, having an emotional connection. I'm looking at you like, but who needs to connect on a romantic level emotionally with many different people? You are a player, call it what it is. That's what players do. We connect with many different women on different levels. The only difference is you're honest about it. But you are a player. You're unable to keep it into one area because you're uncommitted to the actual person. You see, true commitment here isn't about my feelings. It's about duty over emotions. It's about what? duty over emotions. When you begin to put your emotions over duty, then you start to say, well, let's have 2, 3, 4, 5 people invited into a relationship, because actually it's about how we feel, right? It's about how we feel. And not every feeling is correct. If I feel like I want to kill you, that's not a correct feeling. Now, I may feel like that and I may be entitled to how I feel, but I don't act upon it, right? And so this is what we're talking about here. So with polyamorous, the discussion was held that it's different from sexual swinging. And I can understand that, because there is a form of commitment that is involved with polyamorous that sexual swinging isn't. With sexual swinging, or swingers even I should say, it's all about the sex. It's all about having orgies and parties, stuff like that. But if you speak to a swinger, they'll tell you, listen, yes, about the sex, but it's also about exploring, connecting with people on a sexual level. So how is it that you can make a distinction between swingers and polyamorous? They too are also telling you, well, it's all about the feelings, about how I feel, how I connect with the body, how we touch, how we interlink. You know, it's not just a sexual thing; it's a spiritual thing. It's the way that we even we know how when I come back to my. And the funny thing about swingers too is that the fact that they have a base that they deal with, the original connection. Just like this polyamorous behavior as well, there's a base. But it's them two first. They're married and they've added a third person into it. So don't tell me about polyamorous, because they're still dealing with the original intent. This is why I keep saying about LGBTQA. They also deal with the two, regardless of no matter how many sexualities they come to, they're still dealing with male and female.
We were monogamous. We knew nothing else, and we were fine with that. We were like,
so
we will go to
what made that change?
Just as our relationship developed, it just naturally went that way.
Regardless of what you feel like, it still come back to the base. It's the base. You understand? And the base, just like a pizza is no longer a pizza when you take the dough off the base. It's not a pizza no more. It's just cheese and tomato, rude boy. You understand? It needs the base of dough. You feel me? All right, cool. Now, what's important here is that the conversation that they have, Willow says something that's really, really, really interesting. Willow says that, oh, look, do you know what? From what I've observed,
And emotion. I mean, because some evolution can come through
other
monogamy,
things, 100%.
you know, so
but personally,
it just
for me,
depends.
just what I've observed in life, it just seems that way personally for me.
Jada's mom picks up and says, obviously, you know what, you know, you're saying this, but you've only 18, you've got so much experiences to go by. And what Willow kind of defends herself with by saying is, it's all about perspective. And the problem is here about perspective is, what is challenging your perspective? It's information. You see, our perspectives are guided by what we see and what we take in, right? So what we see is a perspective, but what are you taking in? What information are you going in? Because I can be seeing the exact same thing, but the information that I have makes me see it completely different. You see? And so what's important here is not just a perspective. It's what information is going into your 2 ears that are connecting to your 2 eyes. Yeah, because that's what begins to change things. So when she said are observed, I believe she's talking about her parents, observing her parents' marriage and the way that shaped her thinking and her feeling, right? Because she goes on to say that she's done a lot of reading and research, historical underlying oppression of women in marriage. So where do you think there's freedom in polyamorous? Where do you think there's freedom in polyamorous? I'm just trying to, where is the freedom of a woman in polyamorous? The same thing can happen. And in fact, so an example, if there's a guy who has got 2 women, how is that freedom for the woman? Because she can have a relationship with another woman. Is that freedom, really? You know, we have to classify what freedom really is. Freedom to do whatever you feel like doing, you know? And I agree, there are some historical aspects of marriage where it's firmly ingrained in stripping a woman of her power.
And what you find a lot of the time is that marriage and monogamy is steeped in this idea of ownership. And so I feel like those underlying historical oppressive natures that were the beginnings of monogamy and marriage wasn't about love.
That's a poor marriage. That's not love. You see, in order for you to talk about love on a polyamorous relationship and the freedom of a woman, you have to define what love is. When you define what love is, then you can begin to have a discussion around whether polyamorous or marriage is the right way to go. Until you defined it, all you're saying is how I feel. I feel like this. And many of us, like I said, if we do what we feel, we'll have problems, okay? She said, obviously, Willow also says monogamy has its limits. And that obviously it's about saying...
Like, that feeling of like, oh no, like you can't do this. That feeling of like, if you were to do this, the world would crumble on both sides.
Right.
And I feel like that's just not a healthy way. There's no freedom.
It's
all
too
fear-based.
constricting for you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so sorry. Do you think by adding another person, the fear is removed? The polyamorous relationship requires that there is still a base. There is two people who are having a base and a third party is added. This is what we got shown, right? Or a fourth party or two people are added. But as they were saying, we got married. We are the base. We added another person. If now he breaks up with her and goes with him, would there be a problem? We're not discussing that, are we? We're discussing the fact that there is a woman that's been added, but we're not discussing what if he ends up wanting to go out with her, or she wants to go with her, right? The woman wants to go. Sorry, I don't know their name. Sorry. If the woman wants to go with the woman and they leave him out suddenly, and they want to invite, they don't want to be with him anymore, what happens then? What happens to how you say fear-based? Because we're talking about a fear based on the fact that two people are together and you've broken the conditions of our agreement. Anybody who has an agreement with somebody, regardless whether it's polyamorous or marriage, is still going to feel some type of way, right? And the fear of somebody going out and stepping out of that side of that relationship is the same in polyamorous, like I said, because the only honesty here is the fact that, okay, I'm honest enough to tell you. But let me tell you something. If I'm honest enough to tell you, it still will hurt. Still will hurt. You feel what I'm saying? And then obviously he spoke about that monogamy inhibits you from learning skills of evolving past jealousy and fear of multiple connections. Listen, there's fear and jealousy in even polyamorous relationships. There is. Because the base is still there. If the base breaks up, watch the jealousy kick in. You know what I'm saying? The guy is happy because he still gets sex. He's still getting what he wants. He doesn't have to commit fully. He's in a perfect diagram. He's in a perfect relationship. He doesn't have to give 100% because he gives part of himself and his wife can go whenever she wants to go over there. It actually stops him from trying to be better. And then when I say better in terms of actually learning that, listen, hey, even for the rough patches, we got to do this. We can't just invite somebody else in. Right? And I know they admitted that obviously, no, we didn't bring someone else just because it was going badly. And I'm not saying that they did. But what I'm saying is that in a two-way relationship, it forces us to actually say, hey, we've got work to do here. This is a partnership. We got to work our way through certain things. We can't cheaply get out of this. We can't bring anyone else in terms of into our relationship. We can ask for help in terms of counseling and stuff like that. Well, we've got to work at it. We've got to put foundational blocks down. Okay, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and we go through rough patches. Trying to avoid those rough patches because someone's scared or whatever isn't how relationships work. There are always going to be jealousy. There are always going to be envy. There's always going to be a feeling of that you feelings in times where you may not feel 100% safe because these things are part and parcel of relationships and how we relate. Even in your friendship, you feel jealousy. Even in your friendship, you feel envy. Even in your relationship, you feel fear. How dare you think that because you go and put polyamorous that you wouldn't feel that fear? And I said, how dare you? That's kind of rude. My bad. But it's just like it doesn't stop that happening. These are all excuses as to do whatever you feel like doing. Let's be honest.
And divorce is an epidemic, and it's an emotional desert out here. And people are really trying to find meaning and true love.
And people are trying to find meaning, and you know it's interesting because with these relationships, divorce is a big thing, and you're right. So in a monogamous relationship, divorce is a very big thing, right? But again, listen to the language. It's like, oh, divorce is rife in relationships. So here's the way to solve it. Adding a third person. So you know the original argument that was like, we don't add another person so that we can stop, so that we can, because we're having problems. We don't add a third person or fourth person because we're having problems. We add that person because it just naturally happened. Well, here's the thing. If you use an argument that the divorce is rife, what you're actually saying and actually what you're implying is that in order to stop divorce, we add another person in so we can have freedom to do as we please, to form connections. But you can form connections anyway in relationships with friends. That's the whole point. Why do we need to add another romantic partner in there? Okay, you're talking about emotional connection. It's not about sex. If it's not about sex, don't bring another person in. Just commit emotional relationship. We have friends with emotional connections we make. Right? These forms of intimacy, we have them already.
There's so many different kinds of people in this world and so many things to learn. So many people to learn from, and
about how she wants to not starve herself of learning many things from being in these relationships. And I'm like, So are you telling me that unless you're in a relationship with a polyamorous, you couldn't learn the things you need to learn? What do you need to learn? What is it you can learn about a polyamorous relationship that you can't learn in a monogamous relationship? What is it that you can learn in a polyamorous relationship that you can't learn also in a friendship? Just to add as well, you know, that, you know, it's interesting that obviously, again, that even Jada herself said she would consider a polyamorous relationship. And actually it's interesting because obviously we're talking about August Alsina and talking about Will Smith, and the fact that she would consider it, it's interesting because the way that she describes, obviously she would say, oh, if I had to have another woman in it because they should understand me, connection, right? But the connection she's talking about here is what August Alsina actually begins to describe in his video when he says about the fact it was like, I gave everything for it. We connected on a certain level. We had a certain connection for all the years that we dated for. And the way that he's speaking as if that he really connected with Jada is what Jada gave him with a polyamorous relationship almost, without obviously him connecting with Will Smith, I guess. So it's interesting that Jada would consider it, and obviously the mum said she wouldn't. But it's interesting that again we're talking about a relationship where again the base is still the basis of the polyamorous relationship is still that two people got together and then added, because like I said, they're saying that obviously it's not that we just added somebody; this happened. Do you understand? And so if everyone is just happening, you're still beginning at a base of monogamy. You're still beginning at a base of a male and a female, right? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, regardless of what, even like I told you guys about last time, is that when we look at the Bible, the examples of these relationships that have multiple women, they never ended well. Never did, because they're not conducive to people's hearts. They're not appreciative of people's hearts. You know, as much as it may sound good at the beginning, polyamorous, bringing a child into that's confusion. A child is not created by 3 parents. They're created by 2 parents. You can't outdo biology. It's as simple as that. But hey, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to do a part 2 of this video. We'll talk about August Alsina, Jada, and her coming to Red Table. And we appreciate it. Stay locked, stay loaded, more love.